Hello everyone, welcome back to EduTap and welcome to today's session. So today we are going to discuss the previous year questions that is the guiding light in your preparation for the SEBI Grade A. Now if you want to become the SEBI Grade A officer, if you want to clear the SEBI Grade A, economics is a very important subject as it is present in phase 1 and phase 2 both in the paper 2. So how much concept clarity you have got in economics? To check that, we have brought for you the previous year questions session. Through this you are going to see that how much concept clarity you have got. Okay, now before starting with this session, there is a big announcement from EduTap also that we have brought for you the complete guide to become the SEBI assistant manager. Through this single guidebook you can know about the examination, you can understand about the preparation, that what should be the sources for the preparation, what should be the strategy for the preparation. Even if you want to know about the organization, all your common queries can be answered through this single guidebook. You do not have to visit different links, you do not have to visit different websites. Even if you want to know about anything or any common query that you have, you will be answered through this single guidebook. And let me tell you that this is made absolutely free of cost to save your time, to save your efforts, and you can easily download this guidebook. The link is given in the description box below. So now coming to our first question, which of the following can be considered as the foreign direct investment apart from investing in one's home currency? So what it is talking about? It is talking about the foreign direct investment. So that is, you are investing in some foreign country. Okay, so that is foreign investment. Now foreign direct investment means that you are setting up your subsidiary in some foreign country, or you are setting up a manufacturing plant in some other country, you are setting up a new company in some other country. So that is foreign direct investment. That is, you are directly engaged in the investment. Okay, you are directly engaged in the investment, you are directly taking the decisions for that investment, you are directly building that investment. Okay, as well as this is for the long term. Foreign direct investment is usually for the long term. So when you are investing in equity stocks, is it long term? Is it necessarily that you are doing it for the long term? Equity stocks, like you can buy the stocks today, you can sell it tomorrow. So this is not an investment for the long term. Remittance of money through bank account, you are sending money to your relative, that is not even investment, we can say. Okay, so it cannot come in the foreign direct investment. So these both are not a part of foreign direct investment. Setting up of manufacturing unit, so when you set up a manufacturing unit, that comes under the foreign direct investment. Directly you are engaged in the decision making of that company, of that manufacturing unit, as well as it is for the long term that you are building the factory, you are setting up the manufacturing unit. It's not like that one day you are setting up the factory, the next day you will break you will sell that factory, or the next day you are thinking that okay, this factory is of no use, you will close it down. So usually this does not happen. When the setting up of manufacturing unit is happening, setting up of the subsidiary is happening, that is for usually the long term. Okay, so the C seems the right answer. So here you can see that the foreign direct investment refers to either the direct investment made in a foreign country. So that is, foreign direct investment means directly you are investing in some foreign country to expand a firm, to build new infrastructure, or make long-term investments in the country's economy. Foreign portfolio investment is usually when you are investing in the stocks, usually you are investing in the bonds or the other financial assets. Okay, it is mainly done to generate significant returns. So here you only care about the returns, while here you are directly engaged in the decision making of the company, of the units also. Okay, so here you are the active investor, where your decision making power also you have. Here you are the passive investor, you only care about the returns. Okay, whatever the decision the company is taking, you only care about the returns, that you want the best returns. Type of investment, this is direct investment, while the foreign portfolio investment is indirect investment. Okay, so coming to second question, that dash states that other factors being constant, the price and the demand, quantity demanded of any good or service are inversely related to each other, that if the price is increasing, the demand is decreasing, if the price is decreasing, the demand is increasing. So this is stated by which law? So this is stated by the law of demand. So the law of demand states that other determinants of demand being constant, price and quantity demanded are inversely related to each other. Okay, so when the price is increasing, the demand is decreasing, and when the price is decreasing, the demand is increasing. Okay, so that is the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Now the inverse relationship between dash when graphically charted is called Phillips curve. Okay, so that is the Phillips curve we are talking about. So here see, the inverse relationship of the inflation and unemployment rate is shown by the Phillips curve. That when the inflation is increasing, the unemployment is decreasing, and when the inflation is decreasing, the unemployment rate is increasing. So this is what relationship the Phillips curve has shown. Okay, so here you can see the Phillips curve, that it shows the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment, and that's why the A option was the correct option. Now from the following, select the correct phase of business cycle, or you have to find the most appropriate phase of the business cycle. Okay, so first of all, business cycle shows the economic activity, the ups and downs of the economic activity. So recovery is happening, the prosperity or is happening, that is the expansion is happening, then you reach the peak, then recession starts, because peak is what? The highest level of economic activities are happening. Then the recession starts, that downfall of the economic activity starts, the reduction in the economic activity start. Then there is the depression. Okay, then the trough is there, that is the lowest level of economic activity that can happen in a country. Then the recovery start, then the prosperity or the expansion starts. So here the most appropriate correct phase, or we can say most appropriate one after other what is happening, that is shown by A. Okay, expansion is happening. Okay, then peak is not shown here. Then the contraction is happening, that is true, because the recession and depression together forms the contraction phase in the economic activities. Then the trough, then the recovery. Okay, so here the recession, so recession is happening. Okay, then trough, recession, okay, trough, then peak is happening, that is not true because this phase is not shown. So similarly trough is happening. Okay, then after that recession is happening, that cannot be true because after trough there is some recovery that happens. Okay, so all of these makes no sense, and that's why we will choose the option A, because this seems like the most appropriate that can happen. Okay, so A is the right answer here. Now what is the difference between M1, M3? So here if you know M1, M2, M3, M4, if you know the formula, you will be easily able to answer. Okay, so the formulas are very important in economics. You need to remember the formulas. Okay, so here if you know the formula of M1 and M3, you will be easily able to answer. M1 is what? It is currency plus demand deposits plus other deposits with RBI. M3 is what? It is M1 plus time deposits with the banking system. So M1, M1. So this is same, that is M3 only has the extra time deposits. So that's the difference between M1 and M3, that the M1 does not have the time deposits while the M3 has the time deposits, and that's why this is the difference between the M1 and M3, that is time deposits with the banking system. So here you can see all the M1, M2, M3, M4. So here we have the M1 has the currency plus demand deposits plus other deposits of RBI. In M3 we have M1 plus time deposits with the banking system or with the banks. So here you need to have the clarity about the four formulas, we can say, the four money supply calculations, we can say. Okay, income and employment as per Keynes theory is determined by. So the Keynes theory, if you know the Keynesian cross, that is the aggregate supply is this and the aggregate demand is this, where the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, that is this is the demand that is actually being produced, is being supplied for. So this is the effective demand, that is the demand is effective, the demand is being supplied for. So here the income will be determined, here the income has been determined, and here the employment will be determined. Okay, because this, to produce this level of income, to produce this level of output, the employment will also be determined at this point only. So the income and employment as per Keynes theory, as per the Keynesian cross, is determined by the effective demand, because where the effective demand is there, that means that level of the demand is being produced also, that level of output is being produced also, that level of income is being generated. Okay, so here effective demand is where the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. So this is the effective demand. Okay, where the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, that is effective demand is present, that is equal to the aggregate supply, the aggregate output that is being generated. Okay, which of the following constitutes fiscal deficit? Now deficit means what? The revenue is less than the expenditure. Okay, that is some expenditure, greater expenditure is happening, you are spending more while you are earning less. Okay, so here total expenditure, this makes no sense, because to calculate the deficit you need the expenditure as well as you need the revenue also. Revenue received minus total expenditure, no, the expenditure should be in front of the, or should be before the revenue. Loan expenditure, so again it is only talking about the expenditure. Here the receipts or the revenue is talked about first and then the expenditure is coming. So that is also not correct. So the E option seems like the most appropriate because the fiscal deficit is equal to total borrowings. Okay, the fiscal deficit is equal to total borrowings. So here you can see that gross fiscal deficit, long-term financing, that is long-term borrowing plus the short-term borrowing. So you are borrowing, the government is borrowing from other than RBI, that is from home or that is from abroad, or the RBI is the government is borrowing from RBI for the long term, for the short term. So all the borrowing is equal to the gross fiscal deficit. So the borrowing that the government is doing, so the total borrowing is equal to the gross fiscal deficit. Okay, we can say. So here you can see that gross fiscal deficit is equal to capital expenditure, that is what you are spending to increase the assets or to decrease the liabilities. Revenue expenditure is what? It is the expenditure that you are doing to pay the salaries and such. Revenue receipts are the receipts that you are getting, the government is getting from tax, fines and such. The non-debt creating capital receipts means this is the capital receipts that is by disinvestment the government is getting, by selling the property, by selling the assets, the government is getting some receipts. By recovery of loan, so the government has given some loan, the government is getting back that loan, so the government is getting some receipts through that. So non-debt creating means here we are not taking into account the borrowings that the government is doing. So total expenditure, capital expenditure plus revenue expenditure is total expenditure. Here we are talking about the total revenue minus the total revenue, but we are not taking into account borrowings. So except borrowings. And the total revenue minus borrowings or except borrowings is your total income, is the government's total income, that the income that the government is earning, because the borrowings is just what the government is getting. The government is doing nothing for that borrowing. No. The borrowing will not be the income, right? So total revenue minus borrowings is the total income. So we are seeing the total expenditure minus the total income, that is also the gross fiscal deficit, or we can say the total expenditure minus the total revenue except the borrowings. Okay, so that's why the fiscal deficit is equal to total borrowings. Whatever the total borrowings, that will be the fiscal deficit. Okay, that's why, because there is the deficit that is happening, that's why the government is borrowing, right? So here the gross fiscal deficit is equal to net borrowings, the total borrowings that the government is doing at home, borrowings from the RBI plus the borrowings from the abroad. Okay. So now what is the difference between GVA at basic price and GDP? Whenever only GDP is written, that is, it is talking about the market price. Okay. So GVA and GDP are equal. We have to see the difference between basic price and market price. So the difference between the basic price and market price is of the product taxes and the product subsidies. Okay, so here we can see that the market price, basic price is given, so the difference is of the net product taxes, that is product tax minus product subsidies. So due to these two, due to the product taxes and due to the product subsidies, the difference between the market price and the basic price is present. Now what is this product tax minus product subsidies? So product tax is paid on per unit of production and the product subsidy is received on per unit of production. That is, the product tax and product subsidy depends on the volume of the production that the farmer is doing, that the firm is doing, that how many units they are producing. So here, to calculate the market price, to bring the market price, we take the basic price plus product tax minus product subsidies. To calculate the basic price, we will take the market price minus the product tax plus the product subsidy. So this is the formula that you need to understand. And the difference between market price and basic price is what? It is of the product tax minus, or it is the product tax and the product subsidy that creates the difference between the basic price and market price, or we can say it is because of the net product taxes. Now if we talk about the basic price and factor cost. So the factor cost and basic price are also different. So here net production taxes, that is production taxes minus the production subsidies. So what is this production taxes? This does not depend upon the volume of the production. How many units of the production you are doing? The production tax does not depend on that. It depends on what you are producing. That you are engaged in the farming business, you are engaged in some coal mining business. So depending on the business that you are engaged in, the production tax is levied. And the production subsidy, so you are a farmer and that's why the subsidy is being given to you. It does not matter that how much that farmer is producing. Okay, so production subsidies and production tax, they both are independent. They both do not depend upon the volume or the units of the actual production that is happening. Okay, so the basic price is equal to factor cost plus the production tax minus the production subsidies, or we can calculate the factor cost, that is basic price minus production tax plus the production subsidies. Okay, so be very clear with this formulas. Now coming to the last question, which of the following will not affect current account deficit? First of all, what is current account deficit? Current account is what? First of all, so current account means that here we take in the current account the goods, the import and the export of the goods, the import and the export of the services, and the transfer payments that is happening. So these all are included in the current account. The import and export of the goods, the import and export of the services, and the transfer payments that is happening with some other country, that comes under the current account. Okay, so here remittance from NRIs, so this is a transfer payment, so this will affect the current account, and that's why this will affect the current account deficit. If remittances are coming more, if the transfer payments are coming more, that means the deficit is reducing or we are creating some kind of surplus. So remittance from NRIs, this affect the current account. Consumer spending, if the consumer spending is increasing, consumers are spending more, so what will happen, that the imports will also increase, because let's say I am spending, so that means I am buying different kind of things. If the economy is open, if we are talking about the balance of payment, if we are talking about the current account, if we are talking about the import and export, that means our economy is open. We can buy, we can have the goods from any part of the country, okay, that is trading with our country. So when the consumer spending is increasing, that means the imports are also increasing, that is we are spending some money on the imports also, more money on the imports also. So that can also, if the consumer spending is increasing, the current account will be changed, it will be affected. Okay, forex outflow, that means foreign exchange is flowing out, that means our spending is increasing. And that can be the consumer spending, that can be any kind of spending, but this can also affect the current account deficit, because here the consumer spending can affect and can lead to foreign exchange outflow. Savings rate, if the saving rate decreases, that means we are spending more, because the consumers are spending more, and the import spending is also increasing. Okay, if the saving rate is increasing, that means the consumers are spending less, that is the import spending is decreasing, and again the current account will be affected, the deficit will be affected. Okay, now the natural resources. So natural resources cannot directly affect the current account deficit. Okay, let's talk about the greenery that we have. Okay, so that will not affect the current account deficit. Here the statement is not made very clear, the option is not made very clear, and that's why this is the option that seems to be the option that not affect the current account deficit, because all the others are affecting the current account deficit. Natural resources cannot have direct impact on the current account. The animals of our country, the plants of our country cannot have the direct effect on the current account deficit. Okay, so forex outflow, that is we are importing more goods, can lead to current account deficit, or it can affect the current account deficit. Increase in the level of consumer spending means that the economic growth is happening, we are spending more, that means we are doing more import spending also. Remittances of money by NRIs, that would be considered in the current account, because that is a transfer payment. The money is coming from the NRIs for their relatives in the country. Savings rate influence the level of import spending. If the saving is increasing, the import spending will reduce, and that will affect the current account deficit. If the saving rate is decreasing, it will increase the import spending as the consumer spending is increasing. There is no direct link of the natural resources in the current account deficit. Okay, so I hope you have understood all the questions, and I hope you were able to give the right answer of the 9 out of 9 questions. See, in economics, you must have the concept clarity, because when you have the concept clarity, then only you can apply those concepts and use those concepts to answer the correct answer. Okay, so in economics, the formulas are very important, because direct questions can come from formulas, as well as the graphs are very important. If you have the good understanding of graphs, that means your theories are very clear. Okay, so this is some tips that I can give you, that be very clear with the formulas. Do not forget about the formulas. Graphs, when you read the theories, practice the graphs, because if you practice the graphs, if you have the good understanding in graphs, your theories are very clear. And the last trick is apply the concepts. Practice the concepts. Okay, if you apply the concepts, then only you will be able to answer the questions, because in economics direct questions might not come. You have to apply the concepts and then give the answers. Okay, So thank you very much, and if you have any query, you can mail us here or you can contact us through this number. Thank you very much, everyone.